Here we go. I think we are live here in a few seconds. Let's make sure and check this out. All right. Hey, it's Chris, and today I'm going to go over the data visualization app Tableau, specifically Tableau Public, which is the free app. And what I'm going to talk about is all of the questions and sort of vocab I was posed. So how to connect to Google Sheets data for live updates, sort of what the workspace is called and how it works and what all the vocab is and the verbiage, such as you can see above me, I have like tables, dimensions, measures, measure values, measure names, sheets, dashboards, and stories. Like, what does all that mean? I'm going to explain it to make it really easy, hopefully. Then we're going to talk about your data and how we can build a few visualizations and then combine that into a dashboard to show a bunch of stuff at once. I also have a bunch of examples, and of course below I posted all the links to everything I'm about to talk about. I also then am going to talk a little bit about how we can apply this to Idea Foundry, Machine, Makerspaces, almost make a turnkey solution that helps them make decisions based on data. So once they can see the data and we can apply some sort of forecasting analysis, it will help them make better decisions about membership, what videos to post, when to post, all that kind of stuff. So pretty awesome. I've never heard of this app before last week, and now I'm immersed in it. I've spent the week going through everything, all the how-tos, all the sort of help, and I feel like I can explain it pretty well now. So let's start with Google Connect. What you should be looking at in front of you. Let me make my mouse a little bit more visible here. What you should see in front of you is the Tableau. So I launched Tableau. I'm on a Mac. And as you can see, it has a connect window over on the side. So let me go there now. Of course, what we were doing before was we were connecting to the Excel file that had nutritional value in it, which was just on the desktop or in your downloads folder. But what we want to do is we want to actually connect to data that we can update daily, and it will reflect in our visualizations each day with the new data. So that's like a live connection. And really, the free and only way to do a live connection is through Google Sheets. Down here you see we want to connect to a server. I'm going to click the More button just to show you some of the options. Of course, Google Sheets is the free and easy option. But you can build your own sort of web database out of open source tools and build your own app that goes along with it and sort of do it that way. But we want to use Google Sheets. And then on your phone, we can make sort of a Google form that prompts you each day with the specific data you want to enter. That can go into your Google Sheet. Each night, I believe it's at 3 a.m., Tableau Public will query that sheet, grab all the new data, rebuild the visualizations, and update with that day's, in this case, that day's calories and carbs, and change the visualizations so you can see that at a glance. That's sort of the holy grail here, right? So what we want to do to get that live connection is we want to connect to a server, and specifically Google Sheets. And I'm going to click on that. And what that's going to do is it's going to shoot me over to my browser. And let me pull that up. And it's going to prompt this connection between Tableau and Google Sheets. So it needs authorization. It uses OAuth, and it's a secure encrypted connection. But Google and Tableau need to be able to talk to each other, so you can select which Google Sheet to work with, and then each night at 3 a.m., when Tableau needs to grab the new data, it can go grab that sheet without having, credentials needing to be entered or authentication, anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the account I want to connect, which is this one right here, Chris Kling. And it says, Tableau wants to access this account and get into your Google Drive, and that's obviously, we need to allow that so it can get that. And it says, now Tableau is authenticated, you can go back to Tableau. So I will do that. Let's hide our Chrome here. And I am back in Tableau. And what you can't see, what I can't show you, is I have a little window here that shows the Google Sheets. Okay, you'll have to trust me on this one. I can't pull this window into the live stream software, unfortunately, but it just lists my Google Sheets. I have Spectrum codes and Sony codes and monthly budgets and things like that. Right here is food tracking June. That's the file we're going to work with that has all the data that you captured from June. So I'm going to say connect, and it's going to whoosh, pull that in. So it's going out to Google, and it's going to pull that in and pop it into our thing. Okay. Now let's see what you're seeing. Okay, so you see what I'm seeing here. Now, this is kind of picks up right where the video I watched that was sent to me, where this was at. So let me talk a little bit about the workspace, tables, dimensions, measure values, all that. So I'm going to go over there. I'm still in Tableau, and here it is. We're in food tracking June. Now, you see it says sheet 1, sheet 2. This is because, and I'm going to pull this up for you, we're going to go back over to Chrome. If we look at our actual Google Sheet, we'll notice there is a sheet 1 and a sheet 2. Sheet 2 is kind of the same data, but there's been some sums and additions, some formulas, and a chart made. And of course, sheet 1 is more just the original pure data. So that's why you're seeing sheet 1 and sheet 2, because the actual data. So what I'm actually going to do is delete sheet 2, because we don't need that anymore. All right. And obviously I want to call this first column, we know that's the date, so I'm going to call it the date. So tomorrow, as this updates, it will get rid of that second sheet and it will call this column date. Now we're going to just go ahead and call it that anyways, but this will update live, right? So we've now just edited the file within Google Sheets, and tomorrow that'll update on Tableau. Also, if we started adding our August data or July data, you know, whatever it was, that would update on Tableau. All right. So over here on Tableau, this is still asking us, we're down here in the data source, it's which sheet do we want to work with? And we want to work with sheet 1. So I'm going to double click on it. What it quickly did was analyzed this data, because who knows, I mean, it doesn't know what calories and carbs are, but what it's starting to do is kind of analyze and figure out what these numbers and words are, and sort of display it in what it thinks is the best way. So it's looking at your data, it's pulling it in. Here we are. Like you said, we want to change this column here to date, just to get that started, to let it know. Now, we're going to get into the wordage a little bit about the workspace. So this is the workspace that we're looking at. We're in the data source. We've decided we want to work with sheet 1, and so we're going to come down here. Now, this is again where it gets into some of the wordage. I'm going to pop over to show you Safari and just show you some of the links I'm going to post below in the video. Right here, this is called the Tableau Workspace, and of course it explains sort of what we're looking at, how everything's broken up. It gets into explaining what the different areas of the screen are. It also gets into the hieroglyphics, the icons. Not only tells you what it is, but what it does, and links you out to more information if you're really curious what all of these buttons do and everything does. It also gets in a little bit to the information along the bottom of the screen and how all that can turn on and off. So anyways, that's the Tableau Workspace. And of course, what we want to talk about specifically are the workbooks and sheets. All right. So like was mentioned in the email, the Tableau and Google Sheets and Excel, they share a lot of terminology together. It's not always the exact same, but it's easy to get confused with all the sheets and worksheets and workbooks. So I just want to, let's go over what Tableau, what those words mean, and how this all works. So let's pop over to Tableau so I can show you that. Okay, and we're going to hide Chrome. Oh, okay. I think Chrome was showing and you didn't see any of the work I did in Tableau. Right here, of course, we're in the data source where I chose sheet 1. I changed that to date. And so here we are. Along the bottom we have Worksheet, Dashboard, and Story. Right now we're on a worksheet. It's called Sheet 1. And what this is how you build simple visualizations. And you showed this in a video. So for example, I'm going to take date, and you know this, right? And we're going to say this is a day, and we're going to say that this is that format, okay? And we're going to drag alcohol over. All right. Now this is where it gets in to the dimensions, measures, dimension names, dimension values, that type of thing. What I did was I built a visualization. This is alcohol intake over time. In this case, it's June. You have your columns and your rows. They are both green. So what I want to explain is what that means. Over here, we have the date, right? And then we have measure names. Okay. So what Tableau does when it imports your data is it makes some decisions. It looks at the words and it looks at the numbers and it tries to sort of decide what those are and put those into categories. And I'm going to go over to Safari and I want to explain what that is. And so here we are on dimensions and measures, okay? So when you pull in data, it's either a dimension or it's a measure. And Tableau guesses, but you can always go back and change it. So dimensions are things such as names, dates, geographical data, right? Measures are numeric. So, you know, profit, alcohol, calories, right? Those are measures. Dimensions would be the date, the city name you drank the beer in, that type of stuff. So what Tableau is doing is it's separating those in the column over to the left and also by color. So measures and dimensions are either blue or green. Green means continuous, blue means discrete. So what does that mean in the general sense, or, you know, what does that even mean? Continuous or discrete. So continuous means it's over a range. Discrete means each data point is very specific. And so I'll show you in Tableau that if we go up here to our day, you know, our date, right now it's continuous. It knows it starts at June 1st and it goes to June 31st. And so down below here in our visualization, it shows us every so often days. But instead of continuous, we want to say discrete. We gave very specific information for very specific days, and we want those listed. And so there it is. Now it has listed each and every day, so we can see the data points exactly and see below exactly what day that is. All right. So that's what's meant by the blue and green and how it's separated over here. Dimensions are up top, measures are down below. And here's what it has understood to be the names of these things: alcohol, caffeine, calories. If we got it wrong, you can edit that. But it did a good job of understanding kind of what we're doing. Measure values, of course, are the values of the measure. So that's what those terminologies mean. Dimensions are sort of dates, cities, that type of thing. Measures are numeric data. And so what I've done is I've built a visualization with the nutritional data. I've showed alcohol intake over the month of June, right? And that's what I want to call this up here. So I want to call this alcohol June. Okay. Now I want to build a second visualization that shows your protein over June. So down here at the bottom, I'm going to build another worksheet. So I'm going to click plus. And again, the column I want to be the date. And I'm going to change this. For some reason, it thinks it's year. So I'm going to let it know, no, these are days. And that this is the format we wanted, in the day format, right? And then I'll drag over the protein here. And just to show the difference in the visualization, I'll leave this on continuous. And obviously over here, I have this on discrete, so it shows the dates specifically. So you can kind of see the difference there. All right, and I'm going to call this Protein June. Okay. So now I have two worksheets. This one is my worksheet where I built my alcohol visualization. I've decided it looks like this. This is the one where I've built my protein. Actually, I would like the color of that to be orange, just to differentiate. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a dashboard. What we've just been working on are worksheets. That's where we build our little visualizations. A dashboard is where those come together to form an overview of all of your different vises, right? Now, I'm going to show you a couple dashboards and explain how this works and why it's important. And I want to do that over here. So let's pop on over to our Safari. So what you see is a dashboard that was built using data from MyFitnessPal. This is a fitness app, and if you pay for the premium, you can export the data. And so what this user has done has built a dashboard and has sort of built different visualizations using his nutritional data to give him some insight as to what's happening, right? And so up here, he has his body weight trend, and this is in pounds. Right here, it shows his calories, carbs, protein, much like we're capturing. This is highlighted to show when he is at or above goal or below. And if you scroll down a little bit further, it's sort of some insights about what's happening. And this is, of course, all interactive. So you can focus just on his breakfast and get a breakdown, focus just on snacks, get a breakdown. So I'm going to go to another dashboard. And what this dashboard is showing is, in addition to pulling data from my fitness app, you can also pull step data from your Fitbit and nutritional data that you enter on your own, and data from other data sources that you then, boom, put into a dashboard. And this one is a little more interesting just graphically. But again, his heart rate comes from one source. The strength training information comes from another, data source that he input. This information is obviously pulled from another data source about his jogging. That's probably pulled from Strava, something like that, right? So what this dashboard has done is it's taken data sources in Tableau. So he built this in a worksheet, he built this in a worksheet, this in a worksheet, this in a worksheet, and then boom, threw those together in a dashboard. So let's go over to Tableau really quick and show you what I mean by that. What I'm going to do down here at the bottom is I'm going to say New Dashboard. All right, and this becomes another, part of this whole sort of workspace. And in the dashboard, it simply says Drop Sheets here. So here's our two sheets. So boom, there's our alcohol. And I'm going to drag this visualization over. And we could put them side by side. We could also put them, I believe, on top of each other, like that, right? Let's say we want to build a new worksheet, a third one. And again, we'll call this, let's make sure we put this in the right format. Let's get your sugar going here. Let's change its color to green. Okay. And so we've built sugar over June on this sheet, sheet 3. If we want, we can kind of organize those and put our sheets together. I'm going to go to my dashboard now. Sheet 3 has shown up. I'm going to drag and let's throw that right in there. So now we have a dashboard that's pulling our daily intake of alcohol, protein, I forgot to name that, but that's obviously our sugar. In fact, can we name it here? Yes, we can. Sugar, June. Perfect. All right, now if you wanted to pull in some step data from somewhere, or your body fat, and you wanted to overlay that over top, like we would start to build a dashboard using these visualizations and deciding how that looks and how that works. Now, of course, because we've hooked this up to our Google Sheets, this dashboard will then update each morning with the next day, and that will help it start to build out over time this forecasting ability. And what I mean by that is if we go into our sheets here, there's an analytics tab, and that analytics is going to let you start to forecast out into time what's happening. And let me show you how that can be done in the way of another sales forecast dashboard here. So this is, for example, how you could take a bunch of different information and data from your company, input it, and if you give it enough data, it can start to make some forecasting, right? It can start to make some decisions about where you're headed or where you're going as a company. It also, dashboards let you put in interactive bits. So you can start to change. Maybe you had 1,000 sales instead of 100. Maybe you priced it at $20 instead of $18. So you can start to play with the numbers, and that will obviously all update. And this dashboard is built from maybe Salesforce information and payroll information and sales information. So Tableau excels in taking data from multiple sources and putting it all in one spot and visualizing it, even though in the background these are many different sources. Here is, for example, another dashboard. This is based on serial analysis. I like how they do the trend lines right over time. You can actually go in here and start to input your cereal and get some information about what you eat. So it's really interesting on how these dashboards are built, and they're also very interactive. So the last thing I want to talk about then is like, what is a story? Because that's the third item that's along the bottom of that, right? We have worksheets where you build the visualization, dashboards where you put them all together in one multi-view, right? So you can see all the different data in one spot. And then a story would be if you were trying to prove a point with the data, essentially. If you were giving a talk about a topic and you wanted the data to show the audience along the way what you're trying to prove, you would build a story, which is sort of like interactive animated data that tells a story, right? You're going to use data from all these different visualizations and dashboards to tell the story of why climate change is so important and how it's happening using this visual data. So I'm going to show you a story, and this is on the urbanization of China. And so again, what they are trying to show through this story is how China is undergoing this great move from, great as in big move from rural to urban, and what that looks like and how that's dynamic within the social structure. And it was very interesting. So again, all these are linked below, but to go through it real quick, It basically says the Chinese government has put forth a plan to move 250 million people into cities. So they're going to need to build a bunch of cities to move all of the people in and sort of modernize, right, their country. And so what we see is, to begin, up top, we're on this first thing, is this slider. And so, okay, I'm going to click this slider and see what happens. And what it starts to do is tell this story using data. So it's saying New York City is 20 million people. So they would have to build, a city the equivalent of New York City. And they would also have to build a Los Angeles. And they would also have to build a Chicago. And they would also have to build a Miami. And so what they're trying to show you is that if you took people from all of these gigantic cities, that's essentially what China is trying to build in the next 15 years, is enough urban infrastructure to hold 250 million people. So I'll drag this all the way over to the right and let go here. And so that's what they're showing through this data story, is that if you took all of the people that live in all of these cities, that's essentially what they're trying to build in 15 years. Crazy, undertaking. So up top now, I'm going to click over to the next part of the story, which shows China in comparison to different countries from 1960 to 2013 using data. Which countries urbanized the quickest over time, which were the slowest. If you look at something interesting like the Philippines here, it urbanized incredibly until 1990, and then it actually went down a little bit there. Now the cool part about Tableau and stories is that if the user, if I, who am looking at this story, want to see more into the data, by hovering my mouse over this, I can get very specific data points that were used to build this visualization. Over on the left, you can see if I click on a specific country, it'll highlight that for me, give me some information down below, and actually let me, sort of see how that is in comparison to the other countries as far as their urbanization. So really cool, taking data, putting it in a way that is both interactive but helps you understand just what China is trying to do compared, they're trying to rocket ship their way up there, right? So again, as you go through, it begins to show you, sort of put in perspective what is happening here, how many people we're starting to deal with. And again, this again gives you some data. And now what they do is they go into this forecasting, right? So they use this analysis tool to say, well, if it continues on this trend, what does that look like? What year? They're actually going to hit it early, it says, right? They're going to actually, if they keep this pace, are going to overshoot their goal. Now, the social dynamic is a lot of this land that they're using has been sort of appropriated, stolen, taken, paid pennies on the dollar for from the farmers, because they obviously need millions of acres of land to build these cities. And so how are they getting that? Well, they're just going into rural China and giving the farmer very little, according to this data. And so the result is what you have is a lot of the social dynamic. As you're trying to get everyone modernized, you have a lot of people who don't want their lives to change or don't want cities built on their land. And so it's very dynamic. And so what this does is tell a story through the data. So for example, this is, by clicking this is, you can see the percent of farmers who have lost residential land. That's a third of the farmers who had land taken from them. If you also want to look at just farmland in general, almost more than 1 in 2 have, right? So what this story does is let you interact with the data and get some inferences from it about what's happening. So that's how stories are super, super powerful. Of course, you can click on the sources up here, and this shows you where did they get their data sources from. So you can click through and look, are these legit data sources? Are they building this story on legit data? So this shows you where that's at. That's very powerful as a story, to tell it that way. Now, how does that get into let's wrap this up here. How does that get into Idea Foundry, Machine, Makerspaces, businesses? So what we talked about, here, let me switch back over to Tableau at this point. So, a lot of what Tableau does, its limit is just the data that you give it. So essentially, what I'm saying is if we want YouTube hits, if we want YouTube hits by time of day, if we want YouTube hits by video, by time of day, by, was it a Google search, or did they get it from Facebook, or did it come from Twitter? Like, the amount of granular data we can start feeding in to Tableau means we can do incredible things with it and forecast out. So in a Makerspace business perspective, that's exactly what we start to do. We grab the YouTube data, the Twitter data, the member data, the active tools and the shop data, the data from how often the 3D printer is used and for how long, by each person. That kind of data, as much as we can get, we can feed in, and then we can start to make some inferences about, wow, when we post these videos, these members use these tools more. You can start to draw some incredible parallels, and it's all right there. We just can't visualize a spreadsheet without building something like this, right? At that point, what you could do is sort of turnkey this, where you offer this to another makerspace and say, hey, we have this built, you just need to get organized with your data, and we can help you do that. Let's start pulling your YouTube hits. Let's start pulling your Google searches. Let's start pulling your SEO information. Let's get your member database information in a format that can be imported, right? Let's work with your data to massage it and get it in a way that Tableau, it can be drag and dropped, and essentially build out your membership or your prices or your classes or what tools you need to use more or less. So I think this could be incredibly powerful. I'm glad that I met this app and was introduced to it. And I think we can go a long way with this. And just beginning with your fitness data, but that's just the tip. So I hope this made a lot of sense. We can, go into any of this much further as we work with more data, as we get more ideas. I'm very excited to play, with this and then just learn it. I just immersed myself in it this week to make sure I knew what I was talking about and that everything worked. So, all right, that is Tableau Public in a nutshell, connecting it to Google, working with your data. I'll be back to be more in-depth with any of these that we need to. Have a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye.